Today's guest is Sarah Jones. She's a principal consultant at ShortList Recruitment Limited, focused on their Microsoft practice, which includes Power Platform, BizzApps, and Azure. And Sarah and I kind of just met through connections on LinkedIn. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for joining me, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
So for those who haven't met you, including myself, let's talk a bit about yourself, where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
Okay, yeah. So I'm from Chester in Cheshire in the United Kingdom. I've always lived here. I grew up in North Wales, which is just down the road. And I work in tech recruitment for ShortList Recruitment. So I started in recruitment 20 years ago, maybe, not in tech, in industrial. So it was great fun. It was warehouses, factories, and busy, always on the go, 24/7. And I loved it. It was great fun, but not necessarily family friendly. So when I had my daughter 12 years ago, I made a shift into more office-based recruitment, sort of just finding my way, winging it, I suppose. And yeah, I ended up in tech about 6.5 years ago. I came to Shortlist, not knowing anything about it at all, terrible at IT, still am. But yeah, it kind of started out just doing a little bit of everything. So all sorts of different, from IT support to .NET developers, business analysts, anything that kind of came in really. So I didn't really find a niche until it was sort of lockdown, really, when things changed and nobody was hiring. We were all at home. No one knew how long that was going to go on for. I don't know if you guys had furlough in the States, but yeah. So that was the last thing I wanted to do. I couldn't not be doing something, but I had to find something to do. So I worked with a company called Blue Prism, an RPA vendor, and asked them if they wanted to do an event with me. So we talked about building a centre of excellence around RPA. And it was great. There was about 6 or 7 of us on the call, and there was some automation leaders from different businesses around the northwest of England. And we just created this little friendship circle that got bigger and bigger. Every couple of weeks, someone would take it in turns to speak. And it was lovely because people were stuck at home alone during lockdown.
Yeah.
And these guys are often the one person in the business responsible for the rollout when it comes to RPA. So they were making contacts with people that they could share notes with. And it grew. And then it just kept on going. And somebody started talking about Power Automate one day. And I was like, what's that? That's not one of these, it's not one I've heard of. And it kind of went on. And then I became more and more aware of what Power Platform was. And it was, this is 2020, 2021 when I was learning about it. So sort of early days, really. Yeah, and the events just lend themselves really nicely to the Microsoft community, which I had no idea about, nothing about that at all. But with that, it kind of took me down a niche career path into Microsoft technologies. So that kind of, like girl with no home, that no niche that I didn't have, it's really handy because there's so many of these guys are career switchers that are in the Power Platform space now. It's good that the background that I had lent itself quite well to understanding manufacturing, warehouse management, and then I'd worked on all sorts of roles, so data and cloud stuff kind of made sense to me as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now, really, specializing in that Microsoft stack.
Yeah, it's really funny for you to describe that as a niche. A niche. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? Microsoft's got all kinds of stuff, but you're right. Power Platform itself is a bit of a niche within the overall Microsoft portfolio of products.
Yeah, so for us in an agency, we'd have, say, we have a .NET specialist and a data specialist and a cloud specialist, but that might spread across, I don't know, Amazon Web Services and Azure and Google, but that might be a cloud specialist. What we've focused on is the fact that a lot of what I cover is Microsoft, and a lot of the partners will do BizzApps Dynamics, Power Platform, data engineering services, cloud services. So I kind of would oversee that, and then there'd be maybe sort of mini niches within it. But for us, tech can be, we work with a lot of companies here, like retailers that you may not have heard of in the States, but we'll build their tech teams. So for us, it is a bit of a niche, but not to you experts.
No, but I like that because even in the United States, Power Platform took off about the same time as you were talking about in the 2021 timeframe. I mean, parts of it existed, but it became super popular, I think, when people realized, I have some time, let me learn something new. Oh, wow, this is really easy to learn. Sure, there's some complexity as you get into the higher level capabilities, but it became really easy to learn. And then all the user groups in the world went online instead of meeting in person. The conferences, IT conferences went online. Many of the IT conferences went free for the first time ever because they were online. And it changed everything. Yeah, COVID was a big boost to technology people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Power Platform developers have come from COVID. It was cleaning apps to monitor sort of cleaning or desk management. There's a guy, he was amazing actually. It's a terrible CV, and if he hears this, he'll know who he is. But he's worked up through the railways. He's done everything to do with railways, and you can really clearly see from his CV what he'd done. But when I spoke to him, and it was cleaning rotors on the trains and stations and staff management apps that he'd built, and he's pulling up screen shares and showing me what he'd done, and it was amazing, incredible. And that was, he just found it. He was quite techie, hobbyist anyway. And there are a lot of stories like that. They just discovered something they could do within the licensing that they already had,
Mm.
and started learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely was a catalyst for this market from a recruitment point of view, for sure.
So for you, Sarah, thinking back a ways though, when you were coming out of high school, what did you do? Did you go to university? Did you do odd jobs? How did you get your career started?
There was no plan for me. There was yeah, I wasn't really in a situation to have the opportunity to go to university from the kind of home situation. So I worked in a restaurant. It was an American style diner called Fatty Arbacles. And loads of my school friends worked there as well. So we just had a great time. We had nice food. We'd go out into Chester for drinks afterwards, and we just sort of did that. And then realised it was time to get a job in an office or something that might become more of a career. And I went into a sales job at a bank, um, which I enjoyed to a point, but it was quite monotonous by the end of it. And then I went into an administration job, which was all right. It was fleet management department, but again, and I was maybe 19 at this point, 18, 19, so no real life experience, which I certainly gained in working with transport managers and HGV drivers. Gave me a little bit of life experience, learned how to deal with people, I think, difficult people at times. Um, and it was my little sister who she works in recruitment in Sydney now in Australia, but she was working for a company in Chester and just said, there's a job here. It was literally that much of an accident. There's a job here. It's salesy and it's with people. And I said, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. So I went and I got put in an office on my own. They sacked my manager and said, could do it. So it was like a baptism of fire. There was no no sort of real training or anything really. It was just go out and learn the hard way. But it was so much fun. It was great fun. But yeah, none of it was planned. Yeah.
And you said it was focused in hiring factory and industrial?
Yeah, anything industrial, so warehousing mostly, and then some factory sort of jobs. So it was interesting learning how things were made, walking around factories, genuinely was interested in how these processes work. And I'm sure if I went back now, it'd be totally different with everything being automated. But back then you needed people to do pretty much everything.
Wow, actually sounds like a job I would love to do, right? You get to interact with a lot of different people. Hiring,
Yeah.
hiring is I love hiring, even in the jobs I've had where I hire people because you're giving somebody an opportunity. I love that about hiring. So that would be very interesting. And then you learn a bit about what it is they do, so you have a better idea who to hire.
Yeah, yeah, and it was interesting. There's TV shows about this stuff, right? How things are made, you know. So I was there asking questions, watching the lines move along, and each some were, the chicken factory wasn't much fun to go walk around, but there was yeah, it was really interesting. And I think the most interesting part was getting to know people. So the people I was placing into those roles, warehouse workers, you know, maybe there were different sort of types of people. There might be the dad who's the breadwinner, who's going in and, you know, and working minimum wage job, getting as many hours as they could, and you're really rooted to try and get them more hours so they can earn more money. Um, you know, and you get more immigrant workers, and just the dynamic of why they were working, and they were the most reliable from all of the, before I got into IT, those industrial guys, they were the reliable ones.
Hmm.
Because it was, they had to go, they had to work, you know, they had to turn up. And getting to know that, understanding the motivation, hearing about their families and what their circumstances were. Yeah, it was nice, nice experience.
And so similarly, as you do the technical stuff, you go to user groups, you go learn about what it is we do.
Yeah, yeah. So the closest one to me is in Manchester, Dynamics Power Platform User Group. That they get, it's a good crowd, some great people, and I've met, you know, these people that you see online. You get to meet there, and yeah, yeah. So that's great. And I joined virtual user groups as well. A Scottish Power Platform Music Group is a good one. The friends of mine who organise that, and then I run my own virtual roundtable events every week. It's almost two a week at the moment, but it's great because it's, I mean, it's fun, and I've made so many friends through doing it. But yeah, I get to learn about what you guys do. I can't do it. I have tinkered a little bit. Our mutual friend Keith
Yeah.
has sort of helped me out, and I've learned a few things. But really, day to day, I don't look at, you know, an environment. I don't see what you guys do. I can talk about it, and I could probably talk about it a lot better. I can certainly talk about it a lot better than I would if I didn't run the events. So they can be technical demos. They can be just a roundtable conversation, which is kind of where it all started, just people sharing insights. Sometimes it starts out supposed to be about one thing. I had one with a lady called Natalie Leathers, and we remember talking about exams and coaching people with into their exams, but a load of MVP architects turned up. So it just turned into something totally different. But I get, yeah, I get to learn an awful lot through doing those, and it's great. So they've kind of got a bit of a momentum. So there's a lot of, mostly the guys will kind of just throw a message on LinkedIn at me with a topic that they want to talk about. And then others I'll try and tease out a little bit more. Maybe people are a bit more shy, haven't spoken before, and yeah, no, it's good. So it definitely gets to learn a lot more about what you guys do
Well, I
through
like
my own event.
and I like that, right? So that when you're looking for somebody to hire for a position at some company, having that understanding, I think, well, reduces risk for you, right? That you hire somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, but also increases the opportunity for the business that you're hired for.
Yeah, I think it's good, and it wasn't the intention, but it has to have a positive impact on how I do my job. And
Yeah.
you know, the job is to speak with hiring managers and get clients in the first place. And if you can speak that language, understand some issues, you know, the general issues or general queries they might be getting from clients, understand their pain points, and then how we can kind of maybe try and fix them through hiring. That helps me on the sales process, just more consult. It makes everything more consultative, right? So that sales bit is more consultative because I understand what they want. But then on the hiring side, people have got different backgrounds, and you may have a partner that needs more of a dynamics skill set. You might need someone who needs more of a pro coach background, which is harder to find. Um, or the SharePoint, whatever. It's the different requirements of different clients, and to get that right match for the candidate as well as the client, having an understanding of what those questions are you need to ask definitely helps.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so looking back at your career and opportunities you've had, what's something that you wish the industry did differently? What's something that if we came to you, Sarah, and said you get to make the decision, you get to make a big change that for the better, but today we're not going to try to solve that change. Let's just talk about what might need to be changed.
I've got about three answers for you, so I'm going to pick one.
Okay.
The first thing, I think something I'm quite passionate about is the junior, giving juniors a chance to get into the market. And it's hard. There's the Power Up program from Microsoft, which is great. We've actually got a couple of consultants at ShortList doing that now, as well. And they got on it really quickly. It's great. And I've got friends of mine that are teachers on that as well. And I know it's a great program, but what comes next?
Yeah.
How do you then get into the job? And I get asked that question a lot. How can I get into the job? But people don't come to me for juniors. They want a senior. It's always a senior. And even if they can't afford a senior, they want a senior. You find someone a bit cheaper, but they're still a senior, and it's often that they can do everything, but within a smaller budget. But that investment, and it's not everybody, but it's limited the amount of investment into the junior market. And we all know that there are stats on how big this market's going to be, how big a shortage we're going to have, which is why Microsoft are doing these training programs to get people the basic skills. But then where's your senior coming from who's got that consultative experience, that has been in front of clients with an architect or another senior that's mentoring them through their career? They're not going to be, there's no mid-levels coming through because there's no junior. I mean, there are some, and this is sounds exaggerated, but I think there could be more of that. I think there needs to be more of that. It's quite short-sighted not to have much opportunity for people like that, and for career switches as well, because they've got life experience.
Oh, I like that point. Career switchers. I was a career switcher. I came from tech. I came into technology from a different career myself many, many, many years ago. But you're right, because you have that life experience. Certainly, you already have the life experience of how to work with people, how to get integrated to a team, how to solve problems.
That's the biggest bit, isn't it? Solving problems.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Working through challenges. Yeah, those are all huge. And you're right. So even though they're switching, because I would agree with you, things like Power Platform are very, very easy to learn on your own time. You just take the grind, and you can take the classes, and you can play with it. And it's really not that hard to learn. Having an understanding of how to take it and use it, like how to solve the problem the person has, that's the hard part.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the fun part as well, is if you're a consultant. And there's the other skills as well, how to say no, and
Yeah.
how to sort of guide your client down the right road. That takes a bit of age and experience, perhaps, to be brave enough to do that, or the confidence that you get with time is probably a better way to put it. Or seeing somebody else doing it. So there's a place for juniors, but if you can get that career switcher who's prepared to take a step back, to take a step forward, they'll probably progress quite quickly. So many of them that are great, and it wouldn't take long to really get them up to that senior level, I don't think.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the challenge for junior, bringing people in, right? Getting their first job or their second job, even, early career, like first 5 years of experience. It's really hard. I live in the DC area, so we got the federal government here. We've got lots of consulting firms, and it's the same problem for them. They don't want to hire because their government's asking them for people who are experts in something, and so then they can't hire a junior to fulfill that. The juniors tend to get sales roles, right? They get to do all the business development, all the stuff that is a job you don't really want to do forever. But
But it's the jobs that you can't charge out to a client for, isn't it? If
it is.
we're honest, with a partner, it's about charging out for these people. So the juniors are a cost or an investment would probably be.
Yeah. I wish we had more technology programs or hiring programs where people could come in the junior levels and then whatever happened to careers, right? A lot of people don't stay with companies anymore. They don't stay with the places they work. And I think some of it is because we don't provide them a career, right? Where we say, hey, if you start here at this level, then here's what it would look like, after 4 years or 3 years or whatever, then you would move to this level and then to this level. And then this is your career path and this is what you can expect. And we don't build things like that anymore.
No, I think there's a bit more of that client, like end user, and probably more in the pro code market. So with the .NET developers, there is more of a trajectory. I had a conversation today about a developer and what their salary expectation should be at their level. It's like a trajectory that you can measure, but not in particularly Power Platform. And I'll get somebody with 18 months experience. They've seen a job advert with an X amount of salary on it, and well, I'm a Power Platform developer. I want that money. And no, you're not. Let's go through the right channels. But the truth is that some of the bigger companies will pay the inflated salaries, and then you're stuck because you can't take a cut in pay to go back somewhere that might give you a little bit better kind of mentoring experience.
That's a good
I
point.
definitely see that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a developer. I was a .NET developer, and I ran into similar situations where I actually priced myself out of opportunities at one point, and ended up deciding, okay, well, I guess it's time to go into management because that was really the only place to go from there.
Yeah, yeah, that's it, and that's one route. And then I've seen people go backwards because they miss the tech. They want to get back hands on again.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it's definitely a career path. It depends what you want to do, doesn't it, really? But I think any juniors that I'm working with in whatever area they're in, or even if they're not quite sure, they might be mid-level. Um, the money will come if you put the work in and you go for the right opportunities. And I just think in a good, nurturing environment with good mentors around you and a plan, in this space, someone who's going to tell you what exam to take next, support you, give you the time to learn. Um, they make the better quality developers and architects. It just takes more of a thorough process, I think, and getting the right opportunities. But there's not enough opportunities out there, in my opinion.
Mm. No, that's good. That's a good thing for us to consider.
Don't know how we fix it.
Yeah, I
It
don't know how
costs
we
money
fix it
to
either,
fix.
but we'll think about it. We'll think about it. So what's next for you, Sarah? Do you have any events coming up here in the near future? Do you have, or how you saying you're doing almost 2 events a week? How do people get on the list to know about those events?
Yeah, so we've got a LinkedIn page called VRT Power Up, and we post out on there. Every event is posted out. There's usually something on a Tuesday and a Thursday for new events, and on a Friday we'll send out a schedule of anything upcoming. So there are other consultants at ShortList that do different events. So I kind of focus on the Power Platform. There are other events you'll see on there. We started doing more of a CV and career advice service as well. So it's kind of what I do as part of my day-to-day job, but Giles, who's our managing director, he's oversees our Austin, Texas branch, and he's been doing a lot of career mentoring, CV chopping, and coaching as well. So we're doing a lot more events around different things. But mine are mostly Power Platform, and I'm booked up until October. I've got at least one a week. I
Wow.
have a big birthday in the summer, so I'm having a couple of weeks off then. But apart from that, it's every Thursday, 4 o'clock UK time. And I host it through LinkedIn. So on my page or Shortlist page or the VRT page, you'll be able to find details of all the events.
That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure to include that link so that those who listen to the episode or see the posting on LinkedIn can absolutely join. And I love that, especially like I said, through COVID, the world got smaller in the Microsoft space in that I was going to different states virtually for their user groups. I attended the Scottish Summit a couple times, right? The world got smaller where we could all attend these events together. And I think even Microsoft with their Ignite conference, they've made it always have an online component because it was so global for people who would have traveled to come to the conference to begin with. So I love that what you're doing, and I can't wait to take a look and see which upcoming ones I have to attend. So,
Yeah, thank you. Oh, maybe you should come and speak. I'll get you
oh,
back.
we'll see. We'll take a look. Yeah, give me back. We'll take a look at that. Well, Sarah, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a joy to get to know you a little bit and to hear your journey and to hear some of the just how that happened and what you're doing to help support those in the Power Platform. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.